The goal is to bring you your next favorite band.
Thanks for having us. This is a very cool show.
Yeah, so through many iterations, and we finally landed on the weirdest one by far.
Just a couple of feelings, and boom, you got a sound.
I remember this one time. I had been writing some songs, and I went out. I'm just going right in on this story. I went out, and so I was.
The story's longer than the song itself. We'll go ahead and play it.
And listen, it's going to be everybody's favorite band. Welcome to your next favorite band. That's both the show title and our promise to you. We here at Stereophilia Studio are tireless in our pursuit of finding incredible, genre-defiant artists who are either a hot up-and-coming band or a group that has been delivering for years but have flown under the radar. Tonight, we have Jade Long and Jess Thompson, the powerhouse duo from Athens, Georgia, known as Hotel Fiction. Each month, we will bring you live streams, audio podcasts, and perhaps even a live concert where you can listen to the stories and hear the music of artists personally curated by us based on what we feel will be worthy of your time. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to each episode because the possibilities are endless and you never know who will be your next favorite band. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to your next favorite band. My name is Philip Reese. I am your host.
Hello, I am David Moore, and I am the co-host of Your Next Favorite Band.
And we have some just continual awesome momentum getting built post Musikfest here with some great artists who performed there, and tonight is no loss in momentum there.
Correct. We continue the onward and upward, if you will, from the benefits of Musikfest. So tonight is one of those artists.
Absolutely, yeah, and quite honestly, we are booked. I'm pretty sure I'm already into December, as far as like commitments of almost exclusively people who performed at Musikfest this year that we loved and think will be your potential next favorite.
Well, that'll be great.
Yeah. But before we get into that, I thought it might be cool. We had shared back at our like Knucklehead banter that we had some great upcoming concerts throughout the Northeast that we were going to check out. Many in Bethlehem. We already kind of recapped those. And then this past weekend, both of you and I were at completely separate shows in Philadelphia.
Correct. We were geographically in the same city on almost completely opposite ends of it.
Wildly different zip codes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe? Yeah, like one digit probably, actually. Yeah. But either way. Yeah, so I went this past weekend and saw the band Porcupine Tree, who have been around for some time, but this is their first tour in 13 years. Wow. So that was an exciting show. They played for 3 hours. So that was the third time I've seen them. So nice. Yeah, so it was great to sort of reconnect with the band I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah. And you were at the Man, correct? No,
at the Met.
The Met, sorry.
The Met Opera
I knew it was
House.
an M.
Yes.
It was an M. How was it? I mean, I have not been in there since like the whole rehab, refurb,
it's gorgeous.
Rebeautification, yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous in there. It is it's a pretty stunning space. The sound is good. They basically refurbed an old opera house. So it has amazing. All of these great cosmetic pieces and everything like that, but they updated all of the sound and HVAC and all the other kind of things that make a modern place modern. And overall successful show. It seems like you enjoyed it. No, it was great. I mean, this is also a band that believes in what they do. They came out, they're like, "Hi, good evening. We're playing the whole new album," and boom, that's what they did. So
that is very cool. I do like when there's like an album release and that's what they show up to do is basically play that track 1 through track whatever.
It was 7 in this case. So.
7, and it was 3 hours. That's impressive.
They intersprinkled some other stuff, but it was an excellent show. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
And then you were.
I was at World Cafe Live.
Correct.
And I got to see Carver Commodore again, who everybody knows is one of my favorites, off of last year's Musikfest. I suppose that's the fourth time I've seen them. Twice at Musikfest, twice like this shortly thereafter.
Right.
And they were great yet again. I mean, like, I just find them to be a heck of a performer, a great catalog of music already. And they really only have like 2 albums and an EP out. And it's a great venue that even the smaller stage at World Cafe Live is still great.
Yeah,
so
both stages there are really nice.
So yeah, and one thing I wanted to share here was sometimes we've brought in like either clips or videos or whatever. Rather than do that, I just kind of wanted to actually use this as a dual, kind of like a promotion of our social media. Can you see that? That's our Twitter page.
I can see a Twitter page.
Beautiful. One thing I started doing is this is my first one doing it, but I thought it's something that I might just continue doing, is I call it 4 pictures in a video, kind of like 4 weddings and a funeral. So basically,
I'm sure what that says about the video.
True. So there's just pictures here, 4 of them that I liked, that I captured, and then one video. In this case, it is the song Blind, because Twitter has limitations on how long of a video you can post. If you're interested in longer videos, and I think, let's stop sharing that now. The reels that we put out on Instagram, or even more full length whole songs on Facebook. One thing we're trying to do here is not post the same exact thing on all the different platforms, because when I'm following the same account on multiple platforms and it's the same post, I'm kind of like, well, what was the point of that? And I start to drop them. So if you happen to follow us on multiple platforms, you're going to see different content from these shows. So that was something that we'll commit to you all in case that's something you're into. If you just want to follow us on one, totally get that as well. But thought that was kind of a neat way, because Twitter limits you to 4 pictures and then kind of like, I think it's 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So kind of just clipped off what I thought was 4 of the best pictures and one of the best 2-minute kind of clips. And hopefully you can kind of follow along. If you go back, especially the reels, we were posting something from each of the prior shows, like Dirty Dollhouse and El Huri and that kind of stuff, some of the stuff we saw earlier in the month. But anyway, that's a quick wrap of the shows we've been seeing so far. And it's a great segue into who we have on tonight, because we're going to be seeing them next month when they play in Philly.
That is correct. On the 15th? Do I have the date right?
12th. It's
12th.
A Wednesday.
Let's get
October,
it correct so that we make sure that people know when it's going to happen.
Yes, and we'll get into that more later. But for right now, as we usually do, we're going to bring in a little bit of their music. This is a song that they released. It's their first single they had released. It's a song called Astronaut Kids. And the band is Hotel Fiction.
Astronaut Kids.
Astronaut Kids. About an astronaut. Okay.
Yes, right.
Grow up, I wanna be a star. Wanna sing and play guitar. Fall in love with a man, loves me for who I am. When I grow up.
Just a beautiful song. This is a great version of it too. You want to share a little about them, David?
Sure. Hotel Fiction are a band out of Athens, Georgia, consisting of the duo of Jade and Jess Thompson. They've recently graduated from college in May of 2021 and began playing shows all over the country, including a tour this fall that we will talk about soon enough. Their most recent album was their debut called Soft Focus, and are currently working on some very new music, including a new single that was recently released on September 16th called Monster.
That's right. Let's bring this up a little bit more here and let some more play. So we're going to let this play in the background a little bit, and we'll bring them on the show. Welcome to the show, Jade and Jess.
Hello.
Hi there.
Thanks so much for having us.
Oh, thank you for joining. We're so honored to have you on, especially like in the midst of a tour, right? You're currently playing shows?
Yes. I mean, I feel like the way we've been operating, we're kind of constantly in the midst of a tour for the last year and a half.
Sure.
So it's sort of like an off period, which means we've had maybe a show a week for the past few weeks. But we're starting up, like you guys mentioned, with the beaches in October, and that's going to be like a heavy touring period.
Yeah, beaches are a big deal. I mean, like they're out of Toronto, I believe. I know they're Canadian.
They are from Toronto. Yeah,
Toronto.
That's where the name is a reference to one of the neighborhoods in Toronto.
Oh right, I remember hearing about that.
Most people don't think of the waterfront of Toronto, but yes, that's what the name comes from.
Yeah, I mean, like Chicago has beaches, Toronto
Sure.
has beaches. It's all those lakes that are kind of great.
You know.
But that should be a pretty dope show. We're very excited to see both of you play. It was like one of those like when you're excited to see both the opener and the headliner. It's like really that's a double. Like it's definitely a show to not miss. So we're definitely looking forward to that.
It's cool you guys are going and you know us, because I feel like mostly with opening shows for bigger bands, it's like you sort of you're going in there and like pretty much nobody at the show knows who you are. Maybe like a few people come to see you, but it's mostly them coming for the band after you. So you have to put on a really good show to make them.
Oh, totally.
You know?
And you're right. There's plenty of opening acts that then really grab you because you're there to see the other show. But I'll always go. Obviously, I'll take any chance to see live music. So especially if somebody's slugging around the country trying to make a name for themselves, it's only the right thing to do to at least go listen to them. So then when they bring that extra energy because they know it's an opportunity, it's really kind of cool. So and the fact that we already know that, we're gonna just bask in that much more.
Speaking of, that's like so cool that you saw Carver Commodore, because I know of them, like they're out of Alabama, right?
Florence, Alabama.
And that's crazy because like years ago we were trying to set up a show with them in Birmingham or something. It's crazy that they were all the way out near you guys and you caught the show. That's
yeah. They just wrapped. Like they played this last weekend. It was New York City Friday night, Philly Saturday night, Boston Sunday night. And then they have a lovely social media presence as well. And they actually decided to live stream their 14-hour drive home yesterday.
What?
So like at 11 p.m. I get this note that says Carver Commodore went live. And I'm like, well, why would they do that? So I clicked on it and they're just in their van, bored to hell, driving and taking questions from whoever would want to join. And so it was they do cool stuff like that from time to time.
We should do that. We should totally do that.
Yeah, there you go.
Busy drives, so it'd help to have people like
definitely
that.
Definitely pass the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when I saw Carver, this even goes back to your other point. When I saw Carver last year in October, their opening act was Whitehall out of Charleston, South Carolina. And to your point, I went to go just say, I was like there having a beer at the bar, listening to the opening act. And I was like, these guys are amazing. And they were on the show earlier this year as well. They were on in April. So Carver's been interviewed. Whitehall's been interviewed. Now you guys are getting interviewed. So here we are. And then hopefully the goal here is to get more people going down to see both Hotel Fiction and the Beaches in Philly for people who are local to us. But we do have people who are listening everywhere in the country. So there are other cities that they should just check your site and see where else you guys will be playing.
Totally, yeah. We'll be in a lot of places around the country. So
Yeah. But let's bring it to your story because I think there's some really cool aspects in there, and anybody who might be like a budding musician, I think, can find some cool inspiration from what you guys have pulled together in a very short period of time. But if we start with your growing up, you both grew up in families that were musical, if that's correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought maybe share some stuff there, each of you, if you don't mind, like what some of those early instruments or early inspirations were.
Yeah. So I grew up with a father who was a pianist, which was really cool.
Very cool.
He plays jazz and he writes his own music, and he's also a piano teacher. So he taught me at like a very young age, and I always had music around me growing up. And I got my first keyboard at like 4.
Nice.
And yeah, I was just very drawn to it. And every time I wanted to learn something, he would be there to teach me and help me through it. But it was cool because he never really forced it on me. And it was just kind of like a very natural, like, growing love for music. It was really awesome.
Totally. And Jess, what was your growing up with like?
My dad plays guitar, And it's a pretty crazy long story, but essentially like he's one of 7 siblings, and they happen to get these guitars in their family, and it like influenced essentially like their whole family to learn guitar. So that whole side of my family is very musical. We have like family reunions that are just like renting a concert space and like everybody jamming in different settings. So I like was always around music with my family. And then when I was like 9, I think, I asked my dad to teach me guitar just on a random day, and he taught me a Neil Young song. He taught me Heart of Gold. And I was just like hooked from then on. He always says that like first chords, and then I won't ever listen to it again, which maybe is true. I don't know. But they got me a guitar teacher. I was like super into AC/DC then. Like I had just been to one of my first concerts was an AC/DC show, and I also like loved the Beatles because my dad like was always playing the Beatles around the house and always like playing Beatles songs.
Yep.
On guitar and on piano too a little bit. And so yeah, like he taught me, and then eventually I got a teacher that was like a blues teacher, and learned from there. But yeah, I don't know. I guess like pretty much as soon as I started learning acoustic guitar, though, I wanted to learn electric guitar because all the music I loved was like guitar at the time.
yeah, AC/DC for sure.
There's not too many of those AC/DC unplugged moments that most people fall back on.
I can't think of any.
It would be so amazing if that actually existed, though. Like all of a sudden they did some sort of like MTV Unplugged, like super chill thing.
AC/DC does Back in Black, the slowed down ballad version.
Right. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Now I kind of want to try to play like an acoustic Back in Black. That would be cool.
That would be cool.
Maybe we'll try it later.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they got me an electric guitar for my, I guess my dad maybe taught me when I was 8. They got me a guitar for my 9th birthday. Something like that. Kept going.
And at this point, you guys don't know each other. Obviously, you're growing up in different towns in Georgia, both of you, yes?
Yes.
I was born in Tallahassee, and then moved when I was around 6.
Got it. Okay. But still that southeast area. But then you both go to college at UGA, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then is that where you initially met, or was it something else around that?
Yeah, it was in college. We were sophomores, and both of us weren't really pursuing music at all when we met. We started a band like the day we met.
Yeah, I read something where it was like you hadn't really been sharing or playing music with anyone else because you never found anybody else that you really wanted to or trusted or whatever it was, but it kind of just clicked for the both of you right away.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like people kind of had just said to us that we should meet each other for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So we did meet. It was kind of like already for the purpose of playing music. And they were all right. Like we definitely did get along very well. So
definitely.
And yeah, like because it was interesting, like the first few years of being a band, because we were both like in school constantly, you know, like we would write after class or like have so much going on. Like we print posters at Jade's art school, and like it was interesting, like doing the music thing, but also like kind of working around school and the music still being what we do after.
Right. And then there was this is like, I think one of the coolest stories, because to me, when stuff like this happens, it's like the universe is telling you you're on the right path. Mm-hmm. But there was this cool story around a last minute cancellation at the Caledonia Lounge that you guys scrambled to pull something together, and it happened. And I don't know if you could share some details, because I think it's a really cool story.
Yeah. So I was like walking up to the steps to like study in this building, and my friend John was like getting off the phone and like was gonna say hey, and he's like, oh man, this band who actually one of the members of that band is now in our band too, which is crazy. Oh, this band canceled on this show, like I don't know who we're gonna book for this show. And I was like, oh well, I might know somebody that I'm playing music with. And then like I was in bands growing up a lot, mostly like cover bands or like in a band growing up from like like middle school on. And so my brother has played with me for a long time, played drums. So it's like, oh, we can just get my brother to come to town. He'll pick it up super fast. And then Jade's friend played the bass. So we were like, we could throw together a band. And he was like, can you really do that? I was like, I don't know. I think so, maybe. So
right.
He didn't have another option really, so he went with us.
And was it one of those moments where like you pitched it and we're like, that's really cool, and as soon as they said yes, you went, holy crap, how are we gonna do this?
Yeah, we had like a month, and Jess called me and was like, "Are you free? Like, we're playing a show," and we were like, "We have no songs that we've written.
Right.
Like,
That's the thing. You didn't have a set of music that you had been just playing in your rooms. Like you didn't have like what you could then do. Like you had that much time to also not only gather band members but write music and put together like a show, beginning, middle, and end.
Looking back, that was very bold of me to assume that we could do that.
But I think that's so well because I think like 2 songs that we sang like I'd written before we met, right? But then like all the songs we played, we wrote within that month. Other than that, and that was like Astronaut Kids Think Twice Out of My Head, which all ended up on our first album, and all came out of that one month of like stress for this first ever show.
Yeah. I mean, some
what
people,
a little deadline will do to your creativity at that point in time.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to mention. Like some people are like, oh, you can't rush creativity, but sometimes just the absolute pressure of the moment just brings out some magic.
It's true. It's pretty funny actually, because right now our guitarist is going through that too, where he has a show, his first like own show, solo show at the end of this month, and he still has like 2 or 3 more songs left to write. And I feel like it's very helpful to have something that's that much pressure, being like, well, there's gonna be a bunch of people watching you, so it should probably be good. You should probably do it, you know?
Right.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is so cool. And you mentioned the song Think Twice. That's kind of become like your hookest, like your catchiest song, correct? Like that's probably one that you would either hear on a radio or the one that you might be singing along to and not even realize it. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was one of the hardest to like record and to write. It went through like so many iterations. Like it used to be in a completely different time signature, and like I feel like it took playing it live in a bunch of different ways to land on the right one. And anytime we'd teach the band the new version, they'd be like, seriously, guys, we just learned like another this song.
They're like, this is another song, right? No, it's the other one that we were working on before, but we changed everything.
That's awesome.
It still has the original 6/4 timing though, right?
Yeah,
which is cool. Yeah, so it's still slightly in
there. Yeah.
And believe me, there's a lot of music heads that listen to the show and they love these like little music nerd moments. So the fact that we talk about time signature on this one, that was on somebody's bingo card, I can guarantee you.
I love it.
It's when we get into a really odd time signature that we'll like check off an extra box on the bingo card where it's like, oh, it goes from 11/8 into 13/16, and then we come back to 6/4 just for fun.
Yeah.
I wish we were good enough to write
a song that's in a weird timing that I don't know what it is. Hollywood, it's really weird.
That might be like, it's like, I don't know. Try to guess. It'll be wrong.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have Think Twice here. If you want, I could pull that up for people to kind of listen to that one a little bit, if that works for you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's bring that one in, because again, I think it's another one that could. Let's say it this way: if that first song had that beauty to it, and again, you were playing piano, this will give them a chance to see you playing keyboard. And that one had the vocals-driven stuff. This is a little bit more pop-focused, and I say that with all like, I find your music to have this like pop sensibilities. That are like whatever, earwormy, hooky, whatever, but it doesn't follow that. Like why I don't usually love pop music is it's very predictable. I don't find your music to be predictable in the slightest. So it has that, like, I guess you might call alternative. I hate genres, but I more mean like you can listen to this pop music and still kind of just get so into it. So anyway, I wanted to bring this up here. This is their song called Think Twice.
So
hook. Here it goes. So there is Think Twice, Hotel Fiction. Hope you loved it there. So you're recording here in like a garage for the Tiny Desk thing. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, my mom loves to send opportunities to me all the time. And she was like, you guys should enter this Tiny Desk contest. So we pulled together this video. I think it was like literally the day it was due that we recorded this. And
that's awesome.
They're backing up the deadline-driven part of this whole story. We're seeing this over and over again.
Yeah, we're always pushing past the deadline or right up to it, no matter when it is. It could be 6 months from now, and we'll still be right on it. And yeah, so then it was a pretty chaotic, crazy day. But we were like, we love parking decks. They're just fun. We skate in parking decks. We do photo shoots there.
Is there a music video there?
Actually, yeah, our music video. There's a scene right in that parking deck.
There.
That would be. You should just keep going back to that for at least like a quick little sliver of all your videos. Like at least one moment that's shot in that parking deck. That would be so cool.
Yeah,
right.
But we, I guess, filmed it, and we weren't very great at recording ourselves. Like we'd never recorded a full band, really.
Yeah, and like stringing together interfaces.
Yeah, I think we used like 2 separate computers and 2 separate interfaces to like get all the input that we needed, and just like somehow got it together.
And there was like one power supply in the whole parking deck or something. Like, yeah, all I can think about is the technical difficulties that we went through, but we overcame them, you know.
Yep.
And
you added stand-up bass strings. There was all sorts of cool aspects to that.
Yeah, our friends on strings will play some shows with us, which is cool.
They're awesome.
Will and Jordy. But we in fact did not win that year. But you never know. We might come back next year. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, it's not you know, the immediate aspect of getting there. It's the process, and each time you get a little better, and eventually it'll happen. It just will.
True. We definitely learned that.
Plus, we learned to master the acoustics of a parking deck, which is in itself almost worth the adventure.
Yeah, put a drummer in the stairwell because it was so boomy. So I'm just gonna be
banished to the stairwell.
Yeah, I did notice the camera person was like, "Let me make sure I get this guy in the shot." Anyway, so But so that night at the Caledonia Lounge, when you guys play, it crushes. It's packed because of people wanting to support you. And then there's someone there that evening that I learned about, Tommy Troutwine.
Yes.
And that kind of was what then kind of kicks off recordings, and even where Astronaut Kids, it kind of like takes a flight. You see what I did there?
Love it.
I wrote that like a month ago. I'm just kidding.
poetic.
Yeah, Tommy was there, and he was like, you guys are awesome, and we like thought he was so cool because we like knew his band that he was in at the time called Jester, and we were like, oh my gosh, like all these local musicians are here, and we go to all their shows, like we've been to all these different shows. We were so excited that he was there, and then he was like, I want to record you guys. And he at the time was like saying he really only had a basic setup, like maybe couldn't handle a band kind of thing. But eventually, like we were talking with him after, and we decided to try to do like full band recording, try Astronaut Kids. So we like rented studio space for a few hours for one day, and then the rest back at his house. He like borrowed a friend's interface, and we just like pretty much recorded it. I think during finals week and in like a week, and then finished it. And then we both went to study abroad like all summer and didn't see each other for months. And then we released it in August.
That's amazing. And yeah, there's no better time to record than in finals during a pandemic. Like that's exactly when you want to put out, recordings of new music.
Yeah, it was pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic. So right before it hits, even better. Like total uncertainty.
Having no free time, like going from like a stats final to the studio, like back to studying, just chaotic, but awesome.
No, right. I think that's an amazing part of it, and then that yields the release of the music, and then ultimately the full length album Soft Focus in August of 2021 is when that gets released.
Yeah.
And you had said some of the songs you had written in that kind of month-long window right before that first gig is made it to this album, and other ones were other stuff you guys worked on.
Right. Yes. We would kind of like, essentially with that album, every time we'd like have a little bit more money from a show or something, we'd like go in to record the next song. But we really didn't like know it was going to be an album until it was done. Like we were just kind of thinking like really only towards the next song, till eventually we looked back and we were like, wait, we could have made an album here, or like could almost be an album. So towards the end we had that vision, but it definitely like spanned the longest time of anything we've done yet, because it was just over a few years, honestly, that we recorded all that.
Sure. And the album name comes from something you heard from your eye doctor, if I understood that right.
Yeah, it was like we were like talking at like one of our favorite coffee shops, and I'd just gone from the eye doctor, and they were saying like I needed glasses, and I was like, I didn't realize everyone can like soft focus their eyes. And Jade was like, wait, like I soft focus my eyes too, but when I'm doing a painting. And
sure.
Yeah, you could talk about it.
Like me and my friends in high school in art class used to always talk about like soft focus and how it's like this thing like artists do when they look at paintings, so that they like can kind of like see the whole thing and all the colors all at once instead of focusing on little details and stuff. And then I also didn't realize people, I guess, couldn't do that. And I feel like we talked about it before with other people, and people thought we were really crazy.
Yeah, I was like, can any of you guys just make the world blurry for a second? People were like, no.
But we kind of related it back to like a metaphor for life, for kind of like zoning out, I guess, and being just your vision's a little blurry and your life's a little blurry too, I guess.
And also a metaphor for like sometimes you're like too zoned into the tiny details and you need to like sort of like take a step back, and sometimes it's the opposite.
Totally.
You're dropping life lessons on us, Phil.
I know. Yeah, and actually, the album has that. Like, I think again, if you listen to it and it's catchy, but then you spend a little more time listening to it and you listen to the lyrics and stuff, and it has those deep moments to it. I definitely spent some time with it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys are asking such awesome questions. It's cool that it's really awesome doing interviews when people like do research beforehand and stuff.
Yeah. The one question I always like to ask, but I'm also like, it's the one that everyone always asks, like, how'd you get the band name? It's like, so I've hesitated, but I'm like, it's just, again, it's something that people tend to want to know. So if you don't mind sharing the band name came from.
Yeah, it was like, it's funny because Soft Focus was also like a contender for the band name too.
Right.
It was that summer that we just recorded Astronaut Kids and then went and studied abroad, and we were like, we need a band name to release a song, obviously. So
yeah, you kind of do.
Yeah. Our old band name that we played that first show under was Tomorrow Today, and we hated it. And it was also but in our song Think Twice, we say it as like a little like nod to people that remember.
Sure.
But yeah, so we just spent the whole summer like writing down names that we thought were cool or words that we thought were cool. There's like hundreds and hundreds of band names.
Oh yeah.
David has a page that looks like something out of the Diary of a Madman. Like it's like all these only because multiple different people have added names, and it's nothing but super cool band names.
Yes, it's in the office that I used to work in. We had this open sheet where everyone could just write down things they thought were good band names, and some of them were a bit ridiculous, but some of them were sort of amazing.
I love that.
So fun.
Hey, if you have any advice, our guitarist is thinking about a band name right now. He's going through all the same things we did.
I'll see if I can find the photo, as I know I shared it with Phil, because I know exactly what you're talking about, that photo that I sent you, and you can pick and choose whatever you would like.
Sure. Yeah, you can take ones that are together. You can just grab a little bit of this one and a little bit of that one.
Mix and match.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things that just like auto generates.
That's what we did too. I remember going into auto generators and just picking like words that I liked.
Oh, yeah.
Like sometimes you pick. Fiction was even one of the words. It's like that's a cool sounding word.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I remember like even that, back to the deadline thing, when we finally did decide, it's because John was texting for a new show being like, they're about to announce the show, like, you guys have to have a band name. It was like months later and we still were debating over it. So
and I really liked like Hotel Motel. That was cool. And then Fiction was just a cool word. There's like this dancer on So You Think You Can Dance, which is the show that I watched with my mom and stuff. And his name was Fiction, and I always thought that was
I love that. Yeah, I was watching that show too. It was one of the coolest, like.
No, but he's like a hip hop dancer. But yeah, then it was just a day that we were like, okay, we need to have this name for this show. And I was at this bar in Italy, and I just had this huge list of names, and I like told one of my friends, I was just like, pick your favorite one. And then he like scrolled through them all and was like, Hotel Fiction is really sick. And I like that. And so then I was like, yeah, that's the best one. You're right.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a cool name. And I figured now we could transition over into Musikfest, where you performed. And David, I know, similar to what I was sharing before about the music, a lot of times what David and I do, I mean, a lot of people do, but there's like over 400 bands that play at Musikfest over those 10 days. So a lot of times,
all of them.
We try to. But a lot of times it's just a Spotify playlist that has 1 to 3 songs per artist that's playing, because we've never heard of the majority of them. And so we just let that play, and then we compare notes as far as like who's on our list of kind of must see. And it happened for both of us. So David, I was just ask you, like, maybe what were you getting from their music early on that made you want to kind of go check things out?
Right. So we did, right before Musikfest, we did a preview show where we talk about things we want to see, and you were on my list. Your band was on my list of one of the picks. And for me, the big thing that jumped out for me, you talked about, Phil, you hinted at it earlier about the pop sensibility. There is a bit of, in your writing, it reminds me of, and I don't want to reach too far here, but it reminds me of early like solo Paul McCartney stuff. So that kind of like pop sensibility that still has like interesting musicality. Like it's not just like, as Phil then tried to say, it's not formulaic. And then there's a bit of the guitar stuff reminds me of George Harrison stuff. So put those together. I mean, where can that go wrong with I mean, so
and like you shared before, Beatles were on when you were younger, and it's an inspiration. So clearly, that's like just in there for the songwriting side of things.
Both of us grew up around the Beatles, which we realized when we started working together pretty quickly.
And Ram is like one of my all-time favorite albums. So
yeah, I mean, amazing stuff.
Totally. So then you guys come into town to perform. And, you know, not only are you playing our festival, but you're playing on one of our biggest stages. You're on America Plot's, the Levitt stage, with the the big steel stacks behind it, and a huge lawn in front of it, and you got a great time slot too. So like, how did that all feel, and how was how was it to perform in front of that crowd?
It was awesome. It was kind of funny because we played a show the night before, and I don't know where we played. New York. Yeah, we played the show in New York the night before, and it was like this crazy wild night, and we stayed up till like 4 a.m. and like with all our friends. So we like kind of pulled up to Musikfest, and then like didn't realize how big of a stage we were gonna play at, and we were like, wow, this is like crazy. Like we're gonna, like get our energy together and like put on a really good show.
Yeah, you're living the rock star life there.
It's kind of surreal, just like be up there in front of those big, I don't know what they are, like
it's a foundry. It's where the steel was made by the Bethlehem Steel Company from like early 1900s up and until the 80s. It was producing steel.
Wow, so cool.
And then it goes defunct, and then over a course of time our town just was like, well, we got to make something of this space, and we turned it into a arts and cultural kind of mecca, really. I mean, it's really great what they've done with the place over like 30 plus years or so.
It's so cool.
It was really cool.
It was cool to watch other bands with that behind them and like explore the whole area.
Yep.
We've never had like one of those projector things that project their faces, so that was really
I kept looking over like watching Jade while I was
That's awesome.
nice and receptive.
Yeah, I think like one thing that was really cool about it was, well, first of all, the weather was like perfect.
Perfect. Absolutely
Like,
perfect.
The whole second half of that week was amazing, and you guys lined up wonderfully when you guys were there.
And like the other thing that was sick was people just like genuinely of all ages. Like there were a lot of people our age there. There were like families. There were like older couples, and everybody was coming up to us after the show and like wanted to talk to us, and that was just really awesome to see that like pretty much everyone from the community was there. And like it was very, very cool, and it was our first time playing Bethlehem and like in Pennsylvania in general, so that was a cool thing to also like knock the list, because that's always exciting. We've been to Charleston, places like that, probably 7-8 times, but we never to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and that was really cool.
Well, I'm sure it's not, and I really hope it isn't like that. It is your one and only time, because we would. I can't wait. Like Philly's one thing, but I would love to see Musikfest keep bringing you back. It's very common that they do that if someone was a big draw and a big hit with the fans. And you're right, Musikfest has this magic to it that goes from there are kids there with their families, and then there are people in their 70s and 80s who have been going since day one of Musikfest. It's a festival that's been going on like 39 years. So it's this wonderful thing, and it's a great, clean, safe environment for people to enjoy music, and it goes on for 10 days. Like it's pretty amazing.
Crazy. Yeah, the lineup was awesome, and that's the only hard part about 10 days is if you're the band, you can't see the rest of them because you're going to stuff on tour. Yeah. But it's really cool that y'all can just keep coming back every day.
Oh yeah, totally. So yeah, thank you for all of that recap. And then I understand you might even play a song for us tonight, and it's stuff that is forthcoming.
Yes, it's the new one.
We have an EP that's coming out October 28th.
Yes.
Nice.
And yeah, we haven't announced.
We won't tell anyone.
But we're announcing it soon, and we have 3 singles coming out with the album. Monster, our first single, just came out on Friday. Our second single is Man on the Moon, that comes out in a couple weeks. And the song we're going to play is our third and final single before the EP. And it's called I Like You Around.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for playing that. I'm going to take David and I off the screen so you can have the full glory of the center stage. And then once it's done, we'll come back on to kind of close things out.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Who else should play the dust too? I
know. So here is Jade and Jess of Hotel Fiction.
I'm gonna die young. 27 clouds. I like you around the light inside your eyes. It's the only thing I like. So don't run away again. Something like this is so hard to find. So take it easy on me now, 'cause I like you around. There's nothing else to think about. We have it figured out. I was hanging on to something too far gone. And I wish that I could rewind, 'cause you knew all along that what you did was wrong. So don't run away again. Something like this is so hard to find. So take it easy on me now, 'cause I like you around. There's nothing else to think about. You haven't figured out. I want to hold you through July. I want to hold you for the rest of my life. I want to know you in 5 years' time. I want to know you for the rest of my life. La 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 la
Awesome.
You can't hear the applause.
That's right. Yeah, there's pros and cons to all that. But incredible. That is a wonderful song.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for
and
sharing it.
We didn't hear it until like October in some sort of mystical future somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
When we don't know about a thing happening.
Right. And I definitely won't be promoting that in any of the posts about this interview. No, that's super cool. I appreciate you guys doing that, and I think people love listening to it. Is it anything any of that or the other songs that are yet released gonna be stuff you play on the tour?
Yeah, actually, a funny thing is that we just get so excited about new songs that we've been playing that song for like a year already. This EP that we're coming out with was kind of like our version of playing catch up with like.
Sure.
We play every single song coming out on the EP already on tour, like all 6 of them. We've been playing for like almost a year. So finally, when you guys see us, I think, or maybe right after y'all see us, we'll be like caught up and everything we play will be available on streaming for people to listen to after. Because people will message us all the time and be like, what was that song? And people message us, even a year ago about that stuff. And we were just like, well, it'll be out one day.
Yeah, road test it all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You learn a lot about what works and what doesn't that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what the people want more of.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if the people want more of this, there's the tour, like we said. You're kind of already in the mix of it here, but it's really going to pick up into October and into November even, right?
I think in November we're going to be back home. So.
It wraps, okay. But there's a bunch of shows throughout the East Coast here, and check out hotelfiction.com to be able to do that, and we'll link to that in the notes. And obviously, should you want to join, and I always call it this because it's on a Wednesday night. We do these bad life choices nights where we head down to Philly for a concert. So if anybody else wants to make a bad life choice and join me and David, and then we already have 3 other people who are joining that with us. So we have 5 people, part of our entourage. Let's get it up to double digits. Let's get more people going to the Hotel Fiction Beaches show on Wednesday, October 12th. Dolphin Tavern is a great place to see a show. So we should bring it all for that evening.
It'll be our first time in Philly. So.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Nice. Very cool. So anyway, Jade, Jess, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
having us.
Yeah. Best of luck on the rest of the tour. Travel safe, and I can't wait to see you guys on October 12th.
Thank you.
See you then.
Awesome. So, David,
Philip,
like we said, momentum building, rocket ships, all sorts of metaphors. That says this week, best show ever, and we'll just keep saying that.
That sounds perfect to me.
And I thought about doing our the thing we have brewing around what is your favorite in the hot seat thing. I think we got to bring that in because that could have been a fun thing to do, and I think people will get a big kick out of it.
We can workshop that up and make sure that we're ready to go.
Excellent. All right.
All right, Phil, let's say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you to Hotel Fiction, who is Jade Long on keyboards and vocals, and Jess Thompson on electric guitar and vocals. And then they do have a band that wraps that around, but they are the powerhouse duo of the heart of the performance and the songwriting. Like we said, they've got a tour going on right now, and we'll be catching that one show. But there's plenty of other ones for you to, if it's not near enough for where you are. Definitely go check that out. Also, follow them on social. Check them out on Spotify or wherever you stream your music. And probably the most important thing that we always try to promote is buy their merchandise directly from them, because that's the best way to support what they've got coming up in the future. It's the ways that you even heard them talk about that. Like, as they start to get more money, they just pour it right back into recordings and songwriting. So that's the best way to support. So t-shirts, vinyls, stickers, whatever, anything that they've got out there, whoever, and any of these musicians that you might find to be your next favorite. That's the great way to kind of support them. Also want to take a moment to thank Carver Commodore and Argonaut and Wasp and Blair Crimmins, who let us use their music throughout the show, in the openings and here at the closing. And also just want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating if you're so inclined. Those things all help us go a long way. And definitely want to thank David for being my host. It's great to do these things together. See you at the live show soon.